Jets were up by 4.
They're doing well now, aren't they? Playing good now, no?
No, they're still 0-11, but today they were losing by like 17. Now they're up by 4.
They just came back.
Jets?
Yeah, but
Oh.
the Raiders were just moving it down the field. Got an interference call on like a 5. The Jets will find a way.
My
Yeah,
team
if you
plays,
hear screaming, that'll be my husband.
my team plays at 4, so the Giants are on next. We'll see what they do.
Paul, who do they play?
They're playing Seattle. Seattle's good.
Oh, God.
That's why we got to get off the phone because I'm going to start swearing and punching.
Yes. Me too.
We're live now.
All right. All right. Yeah. Why don't we call this to order? Call us to order. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So we've got a proposal. Well, a proposal from administration about the follow-on dates around holidays. So why don't we jump right in and get this get it done?
Great.
Laura, you wanna
Thanks so
start?
much for making the time to. Sure. Am I stable? Is my internet stable?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I was
Sorry,
gonna,
there was something that was going on. Not me mentally stable.
yeah, I was gonna ask, man. That's a big stretch for anyone.
Nice try, Perry. So our idea is to be full remote December 21 to 23. Those are similar to the 3 days that we needed for the 3 days before Thanksgiving. And that time was really used to, we didn't even circle back to how that time was used. It was used to develop a parent-student survey, which has been parents really to sort of gain insight into how we're doing, progressing in our instructional model so far. And that data will be used to inform future decisions. We also use that time for preliminary discussion of hybrid remote survey for the 3rd and 4th quarter. And we used a lot of that time just to touch base with the nurses and to plan Q&A sessions for staff. We clarified and refined a lot of procedures regarding timeframes for quarantine and documentation for return. And we also had preliminary conversations around preparing to become a yellow zone. We hope that doesn't happen, but we want to make sure we stay ahead of it. These days were treasured and cherished because it really is hard to carve out uninterrupted time to just work with administration and plan for what lies ahead and for the things that we don't lie ahead. So we felt great. We had great value for those 3 days and think these 3 days, the 21st, 23rd, will be just as valuable. So we want to send out a survey for the 3rd quarter and 4th quarter now. I know it seems early, but what we have realized just from our first round, that it takes a lot of time to collect the
Is Laura breaking up for everybody or
back with them through the telephone? And sometimes they respond multiple times because it's just a really hard decision to make. And so we have to circle back to those families to see what they really want. And then we want to use those days to analyze the data and then just start thinking about what the 3rd quarter and the 4th quarter will look like. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it just seemed it was breaking up for me. I don't know if it's yours or mine.
No, you're breaking up, Laura.
Yeah, we missed a little bit.
So I don't know where you.
Paragraphs?
I'm sorry?
Back up 2 paragraphs.
Oh, okay. So I was just sharing the great value we had for those 3 days during the previous to Thanksgiving and just order all of the work that we were able to accomplish because it was sort of uninterrupted. I mean, we still had staff in the building, but we weren't busy quarantining and moving classes and all the things that come with having children in the building. So we're going to find great value in having these 3 days as well, especially since we're going to send out the survey early and be able to gather that information and start analyzing it for the 3rd and 4th quarter.
So Laura?
Yeah.
When I look at the calendar before we get into the why, So we're talking 21, 22, 23 fully remote. Then 24 basically through the 3rd is holiday, right?
Correct.
And then are we talking anything for the 4th, 5th, and 6th?
We're talking January 4th through the 8th. Correct me if I'm wrong, Caroline. That's that week coming back.
So
And
those,
really, that's, do you want the rest?
so that's 4th through 8th is fully remote?
Correct.
Okay. And then, well, I guess, I don't know how the board wants to, sort of send opinion or give opinions of it. Whether we want to do the entire, because you had other days further out that you wanted to talk about. But why don't we stop here? I mean, does anybody, we don't really need a motion. We don't really need a formal vote. I just wanted to make sure the board had a chance to voice any concerns. So, voice your concerns.
John Rudy here. So Laura, the 21st to 23rd, the 23rd is a school day before the 4th. Okay.
Correct.
So could you do it those days, that week? Because everybody's remote and folks could go in to just, or do it remotely, I suppose. Do your planning. Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely do that, but this work requires more than 3 days. I mean, this is the beginning of the work that we'll need, and it will trickle into January, that first week that will be fully remote, and well up to the point when we want to launch the round 2 of our hybrid. So yes, it can absolutely happen. Also, another piece to this, though, is that there's a calendar equity piece here as well. We have the Blue and the Blazers coming in Monday, Tuesday, and then the Blazers on Wednesday. So we would not see the gray cohort at all.
Right.
person.
So you're really only talking 21, 22 is fully remote, because 23 was already fully remote except for the Blazers.
For our Blazers, yeah.
And then 24 and 25 were off anyway. Right?
Correct.
Right.
So any other concerns?
Yeah, so I and correct me if I'm wrong. So that's why I was asking. So January 4th through 8th, is that going to go fully remote because we're afraid after the holidays people are going to get sick, or is it that you guys need to work on the plan and everything?
Well, that's twofold as well, Jennifer. Thank you for asking. Absolutely, the planning that time helps most definitely because it's uninterrupted, and it does require a lot of focus on looking at schedules, looking at teacher programs, student programs, space, and maybe exploring other things such as maybe we can expand in person for general education students. We're not sure until we have the data. Can we rethink remote, grouping students remote and in person and having different teachers? But this will be a time where we'll be able to sort of, maybe reimagine and explore these options, which we could not before. And then there's also the safety and health piece. There definitely was a surge after Halloween. There definitely was a surge after Thanksgiving. It's not due anymore to these large gatherings. It's really attributed to these small family and friend gatherings. And you'll hear it on the news from Como and across the nation that these have been where the spikes are happening. And this is really what the school districts are battling. After these holidays, we continue to quarantine and close buildings, and fortuitously, the CDC is reducing the days for quarantine. They feel that this reduction is science-based. It is science-based, of course, and it'll also help with compliance. 14 days is a lot for people. It's a burden and it's a hardship for people.
Yeah.
But if we can condense those days between 7 and 10, we may be able to have people follow the guidelines.
Okay. Yeah, that was my only question. If it was, because, we as a district did really well after Halloween and after Thanksgiving. I know we had a couple cases, but thankfully, thank God, we didn't have to close the school. So I just feel like people will get together for Christmas And then there's going to be a couple days and then, for New Year's. So, but if you guys need it for administrative purposes, then, I'm okay with that. One thing I was just wondering in your planning is if there's ever like time when there's only like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, if it's possible to, usually the A cohort goes Monday, Tuesday, and the B cohort goes Thursday, Friday. If there's ever weeks like that, if there's ever a possibility to do like A Monday, B Tuesday, like if there's only like a short week, I don't know if that's possible. It was just like an idea that I thought of so that at least each cohort could get in, one day a week. If, I know we're not going to open for that week of Christmas, but if there ever was another week like that, if it's possible to do that, just to get the kids in school as much as possible. So, but thank you for.
So that's where I was going. Typically, as we've heard, our parents prefer, 3/4 of the district's parents prefer their kids in school. Some of the students prefer to be in school, and to get those, to get that one day in for the 21st and 22nd seems like a good idea. And it's also typically a good idea from a student perspective, from a learning perspective, I think most of the folks think. So I was just wondering, so that those 2 days you can't swing into the next week for planning, you're saying. So you're balanced, you feel the planning is more important than the other aspects.
We did discuss that, but we felt that would be very difficult for families.
Well, Laura, you're breaking up again. Could you repeat?
John, I think logistically those days to have, if you've got daycare and you're doing a Monday and a Tuesday, that's your normal daycare. And then they're in school Thursday, Friday, to switch it up with a daycare, I think would be really difficult for some of the parents to do it that way. Monday, if they know
December 21st and 22nd, you're saying?
Just over to turn it into a Monday A day and then a B day on Tuesday.
Right.
Logistically for daycare and daycare providers and babysitters and stuff like that, I think that would be a nightmare.
Yeah, and just keep in mind those people, if they like already have to pay for it, they could still have their kids in the daycare. I think it might be more beneficial to offer it to more kids to go in if possible. And then, say my daughter went to daycare Monday, Tuesday, usually, and they open it up to school, the child still can go to daycare usually you have to pay in advance, but it would afford other kids the opportunity to physically go in. So I totally get the daycare thing, but I think if you can offer it to kids, John, I agree, but I don't know what administratively has to get done, but like the more we get these kids in, the better. I'm all for it.
Or you want to try answering again? Could you fade it out?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Could you?
Am I breaking up again?
You were breaking up when you were answering me, so maybe you can go back and answer what we were just talking about.
Well, we did speak about the childcare piece, and we also spoke about how attendance is just abysmal before our holidays. It's before Thanksgiving and before, especially in any district.
That for normal years when people travel,
about
right?
that, it's just low already, and maybe we can increase it.
That's for normal years when people travel, probably.
John, I think
Yeah.
it's normal years, and I think it's also now. Sort of what we've seen is people are taking their own remote time so that they can socially distance and sort of quarantine, giving them some space before they are going to see family if that's the plan. We're kind of anticipating that for Christmas as well. And after the holiday that just passed, Thanksgiving, we had quite a number of families who decided to keep their students remote for either the week back or some of them even as far as the month of December. So we're seeing families who are opting for this anyway. And without it being a planned district-wide thing, it's really also kind of a logistical difficulty because now students you were anticipating coming into school are not coming into school on the fly. And there's a lot of adjustments that need to be made with resources in the classroom, resources being sent home. So we're seeing people opt for this anyway. That's what we saw with Thanksgiving, though we weren't anticipating that necessarily.
Right.
We had quite a number in each building. And I think it probably has to do with, perceived exposure, or we had a couple of cases and now parents are just being extra cautious, which is understandable. But I feel like we can deliver a better service if we plan for it up front and, everyone knows what to expect.
Right, and when you say parents, you're saying large amount of parents, or you're saying,
Quite a few, given the number of students that come into school every day anyway. We probably had, I would say, at least 5 at Elm Drive. I know we had, in the teens at the secondary level. So it's a significant number of students who, didn't want to come back, or families who didn't want to come back that first week, and some of them even longer.
yeah, the first week I get the first week.
Yeah, I think some of them even longer because they're anticipating the
Yeah.
travels for, the winter holiday, et cetera. So they're just concerned about it.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for the answers.
Anybody else?
Well, also something to point out, initially with the survey it was 75%, just to John's point, but in the middle and the high, that's kind of reduced based on updated numbers. The middle is probably downwards to like 60%, right? As far as in school. I just had a question as far as, go ahead, Laura.
I was just going to say, middle school now has moved from 36% to 42%. And the increase was really near and around Thanksgiving. And like Caroline said, people are nervous. And so they're taking days prior and after to ensure safety for their children. High school is up to 35% remote now. It was 26%.
Right. And I'm just saying how many people want to be in. It's changed from 75 to down to 65. And I think it's one good thing to point out, which I don't know if a lot of parents realize, that the schools, not the counties, are doing all the contact tracing as well. So, I just want to make that point because it's a lot of work for the administration to do. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. But I did have one question as far as the survey goes, just to clarify. So going out as far as the third and the fourth quarter, as far as the questioning of what parents planning are doing, this is strictly a survey. So it's not going to be, that's when they made the decision of what they need to do for the third and fourth quarter. Is there any sort of idea of when parents will have to say when the third quarter, if their kids are going back or not?
This is the survey.
So what they're answering now is pretty much they're locked in for the third quarter.
Yeah.
Well, then
And we're going to ask a fourth quarter question, but that's really just to take the temperature because another one will come out.
Well, I just think you're going to look at a lot of people saying that, the kids are going to go back knowing they could switch to remote. I'm afraid that 2 months is a lot of time to put someone, and I understand you need planning time. I do. I just think there's some sort of in between. A lot could happen in that time span, whereas, those numbers are going to be not reliable. That's my only fear.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if we could possibly fit in like a mechanism. So once we have things set, we have the numbers, we have the schedules, we have the programs, we have transportation and food and all of the other considerations. Maybe there's another wave on our part to just confirm with families, because you're right, things are going to change. We could go from a yellow and still we'll have students in person, but there may be a bunch of parents that say, you know what, we're going remote. We're going remote for the next 3 months. And so we have to be able to pivot and double check and take the temperature. So I think that's a very good point, Chris, is that it is in advance because there's so much work in putting this together. We learn something new every time. We've never done this before. Last time we thought we had enough lead time and we were still down to the wire because there were so many considerations and details. So we don't want to be in that position. So we're trying to find that spot where we're not stressing out as we're getting to the launch, but we have enough time. But maybe we can build in enough time where we can, again, circle back to families and say, okay, this is what we have set for your child or your children. Is this a go with you right now? Because it's hard on parents too. I get it. These are hard decisions.
So beyond those 2 weeks, you want to go through the other days you talked about, Laura?
Perry, I'd like to say something first,
Okay.
if I could.
Where are you? Oh,
You're on mute, Howard.
still muted, Howard.
You're still muted.
I thought I was unmuted. All right, my fault. I'm
Mhm.
a mistake. Thank you. Wonderful conversation. However, why are we doing this as a quote special meeting on a Sunday afternoon with less than 24 hours notice to the public and upsetting, I guess, some public where they think God knows what we're going to do because they see a special meeting notice come up on the alert. Why wasn't this planned for before now or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday during the work week?
Well, because there are a lot of things that we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with contact tracing, we're dealing with quarantining, we're dealing with trying to staff our buildings. We're trying to pivot our families who are moving from in-person to remote. We're busy refining and revising transportation and school food delivery. And this is the next wave of work that we need to do. This did not require a special meeting. This doesn't require a board approval. It's just more about a conversation to ensure that we're all on the same page, that everybody's informed. If it was a calendar change, of course it would be a board approval, but this was more of an offer to have a conversation in public, to talk about what we're thinking, why we're thinking about it, what it's going to look like. So we apologize if this is an inconvenience and maybe seemingly last minute, but it's in advance of our holidays and part of our schedules, and just wanted to have it as a time to discuss. But this special meeting was not necessary. It just seemed that the board wanted to talk about it in more depth.
Yeah, you kicked out an email yesterday morning or sometime, and all of a sudden we're here today. I think more planning and foresight needs to be done on part of administration. So this does not become a regular, quote, special rush or quote, emergency on every time you come up with a calendar change in the future.
Perry, this was just an offer. This was just an offer to have a conversation with the board. The special meeting was not necessary, and it was not last minute. This was just an informational email that I sent out.
Yeah, my take on it, Howard, was, it could have just gone straight out tomorrow. What I didn't want is that the board, go, hey, how come nobody told me? And the only thing I could think to do was to have the meeting today so that at least you could hear it from the, from the source.
Okay, then there's no need in every board member being here if they don't wish to be here, is what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I was, nobody, and we didn't even have, like I said, we didn't have to have this meeting. I wanted to make sure the board was informed, had a chance to ask questions about it. But, if
we're not giving any time for the public to weigh in on this because of the less than or 24 hours notice, plus or minus.
Yeah.
That's my only concern, was this could have waited till during the week or been done late last week, and the public could have had some days to submit questions.
Yeah.
And they can't under this process until a later date.
Well, it wouldn't have been a public. We were going to send it out to the parents with the plan. And like I said in my email, I was willing to delay if it was an issue, to delay the launch of the survey.
Yeah, well, things need to be clearer, not only from administration, but on the board level as well.
Personally, I think we pushed for the open communication, and that's what they were trying to give. It's unfortunate it's a Sunday. We've been given a lot of time, and so has the administration. So, I'm perfectly fine with it. The only thing is the parents, as soon as they got the alert, they probably just thought we were going remote. And that's really the only thing. So I know we can't really say much in that email, but maybe on the alert, if it's something like this, that we're just going to have a discussion about the holiday dates. This way the families aren't sitting around thinking that we're going to go remote full time. Other than that, that's really my you know, my only thought.
that email that Laura sent to us is, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, is intended to go to all parents.
But it hasn't as of yet. So when the
Right.
alert came out, like Chris said, they went, oh my God, we're gonna go remote.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But we're not.
What email went out to the parents?
So
But it was
why
just
don't
an
we,
alert.
why don't
Perry,
we-
Perry, my father used to have a quote, "No good deed goes unpunished." I know people are upset. You did a good job trying to communicate, Laura. I appreciate it. I know, Howard, I know where you're coming from too. The last thing I want to do is I have a hard enough time making regular meetings, but listen, this is important. It was important to Laura. So who's ever here, we're here. Now we know about it. I appreciate it. I know it's a lot, but thank you guys.
and parents, they obviously know our email addresses. If they've got questions, email it. Right? I mean, we're as a board just being informed. If there's questions, concerns about it, it goes the same thing. It goes down the same format. Email superintendent, email president. of the board.
Yeah, there was no formal approval needed here. So it's just an informational piece.
And, I mean, if in the future, if we'd rather just, things like this, just sort of let it go, as the superintendent's decision, that's cool too. I just wanted to make sure, when this thing goes out, you all don't get a question from somebody on the street says, "Hey, Chris, what the hell did you do this for?" And you go, "What'd I do what?" I'd rather have you be informed than, uninformed. But all right, why don't you want to just look at the other dates?
Yeah, and the last part, it's
You're breaking up, Laura.
19th to the 22nd. We have a holiday. I don't know what. Can you hear me now? Sorry.
You keep
Yeah.
cutting in and out for some reason.
You're frozen too, Laura.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry. We have a 4-day week in January, a 4-day week in February, and a 4-day week in June. So we just consolidated our cohorts. So everybody has still 2 in-person days. It's just the Blazers who will be missing 1 day because it's a holiday. So for instance, January 19th to the 22nd, January 18th, we don't have any school. So the Blues and the Blazer cohorts will be here the 19th and 20th, and the Gray and the Blazers will be here on the 21st and 22nd. So that happens for all 3 of those pieces in the calendar.
Okay.
So
And-
there's no more planning days planned?
Not at this date.
Okay. And can you do those? I didn't
And
catch.
then we will be those staff who are able to perform their.
You're in and out, Laura.
Am I back in?
Yeah.
Now,
Gotta get Elliot jetpack for you there, Laura.
You're any of the hot spots.
So give me do the dates again. It's
Laura, would it be helpful if I did the dates?
Excuse me?
Would it be helpful if I did the dates? Is my internet better?
Yeah, I think it is, Caroline. Thank you.
Yeah, so in January, it's the January 19th and 22nd through 22nd. We have no school on the 18th. So the rationale for that would be to have equity between the 2 cohorts. So our blue cohort would come in on the 19th and 20th, and our gray cohort would come in on the 21st and 22nd. The Blazer cohort would, of course, come in all 4 days. And that would really just to be mindful of the fact that without the Monday, the blue cohort would be short 1 day. So we'll have 2 days and 2 days for blue and for gray. So it's just building in that calendar equity that we were talking about just a little bit earlier in this meeting. For President's Day in February, there's no school on the 15th. So the 16th through 19th would be structured the same day with the blue and blazer cohorts coming in on the 16th and 17th, and then the gray and blazer cohorts coming in on the 18th and 19th. And then for the Memorial Day holiday in May, we would be looking at restructuring June 1st through the 4th to be able to build in some calendar equity as well. So the first and the second would be the blue and blazers, and then gray and blazers would be on the 3rd and the 4th, just to build in calendar equity there. And then the one thing that I think Laura was noting was that staff were able to perform their job function and duties remotely, will have the choice to do so during those days when we are remote.
Caroline, just a quick question. If on those equitable days, if they're not supposed to normally be there and they can't, they stay remote, is that just a remote day? Is that an absent day for those students? How does that normally work, just to clarify?
Yeah, it would just be a remote day. It wouldn't be marked as an absence if the student is attending at home. And we do consider that when we're talking about those shifts, because we do understand with daycare and that kind of thing, it may be difficult for families to transition. So we are trying to give some notice with the first one of these weeks that we'll have a change, midway through January, but we wouldn't be punitive with students because we understand that there are factors beyond their control with them getting to school.
Okay.
All right. Anybody, any other comments or questions, concerns?
Yeah, I just have one. I just want to make sure that we're considering more the parents who want their kids to be in school than focusing on all the parents that are opting out. I know a lot of parents that I talk to want their kids in school, and I do understand the administrative responsibilities. I don't know everything that goes on. I just really want to be very vocal about the parents that want their kids in school. If they're we said, if there's any way to get them in on the, whatever it is, the 21st, 22nd, even that first week back, if it were, I just felt like we did such a good job with Thanksgiving and Halloween. We did have a couple cases, but if there was any way to even, go back that last week, that first week of January, have the kids go in like Thursday, Friday, A, Thursday, B, Friday. I just want to advocate for the parents that really want their kids in, because I know a lot of people that struggle with the remote, just little things here and there. It would just really ease a lot of people, I think, to get them in as much as possible. And that's it. And thank you, guys.
Hey, Laura, one question that I can ask. When we did the initial survey, whenever it was, a couple months back, and we asked what parents' plans were being, is there a way to look back at those percentages and compare them to where we are now? So when we take that into the third quarter, we can see how much of a disparity there was between those two numbers. I mean, not for now, it's just food for thought to see how much of a difference that time can make.
Yep, we can do that.
So I'll ask the board, because the administration has put a proposal to us, for schedule. Does the board, does the board want to take a formal action, motion, whatever, to say, we got to do something specific? So the 21st would be an A, the 22nd would be a B, and 23rd would be fully remote. Is there anyone, do we want to do that as a motion to push the district in that direction?
I'm personally going to trust in the administration. I think they know, obviously, children and parents want to be in, and if they need these days, I'm okay with it. But that's my personal opinion.
And same as I agree with that.
Anybody
Yeah.
else?
I am okay with it. Again, I don't know what goes on in the administration. I just want to make sure that, that I talk for the parents. Let's get these kids in as much as possible. I know it just helps all around. for the parents and the kids and everything. But again, if you guys really do feel that you need it, then, and especially if it's going to get these kids, to the next stage of hybrid, then I personally am all for it. So I really do appreciate all you guys are doing. I know it's not easy.
So do I hear a motion or no? Okay. All right. So we'll go the way it is. Laura, one question I had about the Memorial Day. Are we going under the assumption at this point that we will still be AABB in May, June? I mean, is that our assumption right now, that we're going to be this hybrid model through the school year?
My prediction is we'll be some kind of hybrid. I don't know what the hybrid will end up being in June, just based on the information and guidelines and numbers. We may be able to explore, like I said earlier, more in person for general education students, but we just have to look at the data.
So May, the Memorial Day one is just sort of to make the calendar equal, and then if we're going to change it, we'll change it again at some point.
Yeah, that's what it looks like now.
And have we gotten any, because I can't even imagine this discussion, but have we gotten any feedback, thoughts, whatever, from the state or from education about this immunization that supposedly is coming out in December, January, that, like the measles and all those, you can't go to school if you don't have them. Have we heard anything like that from the state?
No.
Any thoughts? What are the other, have you talked to the other superintendents about it?
We haven't heard anything.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I had one last question. I'm sorry, John. When we hear all this yellow, red zones, everything else, is there a way to kind of keep the public kind of up to date of where we sit? I don't know. I don't know if it's on our website. I don't know if you get that information, but I think everybody's kind of curious as far as, what region we're in, how close we are, what our percentage is, all of that. I mean, even if we can just share a link on our website and they can do their own homework, because then that's when the testing comes in and we have to do a certain amount of testing and everything else. And that's when it really kind of gets pretty hairy. So.
It's on the New York State Health Department website, and you can look at each school district. If you're just looking for your hot zones, your yellow, orange, and red, there's a whole page on that. It will show the certain areas. I was on there yesterday. I found out Newburgh is Middletown, or on the yellow zones, which I was unaware of. So yeah, it's creeping around us. But if you go to the New York State, NYS, DOH, I guess you'll be able to pull it up.
Yeah, maybe
it does tell you what region that we fall into, Howard, because it's not just our school, it's the region we're in, right? The hotspot or whatever it would be.
Well, right now, we luckily we don't have it.
We don't have it, right?
But it will give you by town how many people have positive tests.
Okay.
It does, it just means they were, and it will even give you how many were tested per county. And so there's all kinds of stuff. It's if I remember right, it's NYS DOH dot or it's whatever, it's DOH.NYS.NY, something like that. But you just put NYS Health Department up there, you'll pull it up, Google it.
Yeah, maybe if I don't know what the current website looks, if it has a spot to, just as Chris said, just put a link there that says, that way people don't have to send those kind of questions to you or the rest of the administration.
I'm only mentioning it because Dutchess was, a dozen or two for months, and now we're higher than, we're over 150 or 130, 140 for the last few days. So I'm just saying, as it creeps, hopefully it keeps its distance, but just to keep tabs on it, because I know those calls will start to escalate.
Yep. Okay. The
other thing I was going to mention was you were talking about phases, and the only thing that's really definitive right now, New York's getting hundreds of thousands of vaccines going to be coming to us, but the first phase does not include any education personnel. And it's not definite for phase 2 or phase 1B. I think I heard 1B, but that's up in the air still. We don't know how much we're getting New York wise. So
Yeah, but John, we have 2 people on our board that can help us get. Never mind. No, I know. I mean, it's going to be a long time. I'm just curious what the statement is going to be. Thou shalt do it, or you're going to be remote. I don't know, but
nobody
all
knows.
right. Anybody, any other concerns, questions, comments? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion since they're muted.
Do I have a
I'll-
second?
I'll second it. Claudia's seconding.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any against? All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
See ya. Bye.
Bye, Perry.